Remember, smash that like button.
That will provide much needed relief for the more than 250,000 businesses that have applied for these loans, and these numbers will continue to rise quickly. Again, far greater than anything we could have expected. We thank you, and we thank the thousands of employees for responding. And by the way, we're going to be going for, it looks like, a very substantial increase in the number, because we'll be running out of money pretty quickly, which is a good thing in this case, not a bad thing. And Steve will discuss it, but we're in talks to supplement the fund and do more money. So that's the way it's moving.
Sources tell CNN that the Small Business Administration is telling lawmakers that stimulus money funding its special small business loan program will run out by the end of the week. Congress has not been able to agree on legislation to provide more funding. Democrats are insisting on provisions to get that money to more small businesses, as well as increased funding for states and hospitals. CNN's Phil Mattingly talked to some small business owners who desperately need the money to save jobs for their employees.
For more than 40 years, Kelly Conklin's architectural woodworking shop was a constant.
This one came with a swiftness and severity that I don't think anybody could prepare for.
Until coronavirus forced Conklin to close his doors.
What I think we need, and what I don't see coming yet, first, my business needs a direct cash infusion.
Conklin has furloughed his 13 employees. One has come down with the virus. The Emergency Small Business Lending Program in the $2 trillion stimulus could add weeks to his company's ability to survive. But more than a week after applying, he has heard nothing.
It's now going on a week, and crickets, nothing. I have no idea whether the application is correct. I have no idea whether we're going to be approved for this.
And the clock is ticking. CNN spoke to more than 24 small business owners, finding varying degrees of frustration, anger, and outright desperation, but also stories of business-saving success, each a reflection of a government trying to build a relief program unprecedented in scale. Just last year, the Small Business Administration handled 60,000 loan applications. In the last 2 weeks, they've approved more than 1 million. But lack of guidance and tech glitches hampered the experience for lenders and borrowers alike. Andrew and Brianna Volk did successfully receive money through the program, but now say they have more questions than answers.
It's almost a full-time job having to kind of figure out what's going on and, if we're doing everything correctly.
The main couple owns Portland Hunt and Alpine Club. They've laid off all but one of their employees and are now grappling with how exactly to use the new money they've received.
We're used to taking on risk. We're used to taking on and dealing with complex situations. But when the government is on the other side of the table and changing the rules on you on a daily basis, it's scary.
Still, with more than $240 billion of the $349 billion allocated for the program already committed, more money is now at the heart of a Washington political dispute. The urgent need underscoring that when the program works, it is literally saving businesses.
I really feel blessed.
Tim Miller has 4 employees at his auto repair shop in Owasso, Oklahoma. 4 employees he paid out of his own pocket as 98% of his revenue disappeared.
I didn't want to see my people suffer.
But just 72 hours after he submitted his application, the government funds were in his account. For Miller, amid an economic and public health catastrophe, it means there's a little bit of something everyone could use right now.
Just relieved a lot of stress. I was able to tell my employees that we received money as well. And so that really took a lot of stress off of them. And it just meant everything to get this money.
And Jake, lawmakers really have days to try and figure out how to find a path forward for that additional funding. The next big test, the Senate will convene on Thursday. Republicans sticking to their position that they only want to deal with money for the small business program. Democrats haven't budged off theirs as well. One thing is clear, however, when this program works, it does save small businesses, and small businesses right now need the money more than anybody else. So the real question is, Can lawmakers reach agreement to give more money as the SBA is very quickly running out of funds? Jake?
And those stories that we just heard really give us a personal look at how this crisis is impacting millions of Americans. It's worth repeating, more than 22 million people lost their jobs in the last month. And in those 4 weeks, all the job gains since the Great Recession, they've been completely wiped out. Here to help us make sense of some of this is ABC's new business correspondent, Deirdre Bolton. Deirdre, great to have you and welcome to ABC News.
Thank you very much. Starting in a very auspicious, historic time. And you mentioned those staggering numbers where, to your exact point, in the past 4 weeks, we have lost more jobs than we created in the past decade. And as most economists are telling me, at this point, the virus is the economy. The economy is the virus. So most agree that testing is the most important way to get people back to work, because people have to make this huge psychological shift from this virus could hurt me or someone that I love to turning that page to being willing to go back in an office, back in a restaurant when they reopen. And then, of course, that confidence is what's going to underpin business leaders in their confidence to invest, to rehire, to put more money in infrastructure, more money into equipment. So it really is a confidence game. And of course, just one big contextual point. Some experts that I've been speaking with say that unemployment could be as high as 13% in our country by June. And when you compare that to February, that 3.5% level, close to a 50-year low, it just shows you this really tremendous arc that we're on right now, Lindsay.
Yeah, 13%. It's hard to really get your mind around that. But as we've been reporting, those $1,200 stimulus checks have started going out to millions of people. You don't need an expert to tell you that that is not going to be enough. So how much more do you think is needed?
Well, at this point, it's about putting out fires. And many people have said, if your house is on fire, you don't worry about the water damage that is going to come after the firefighters are there. You just need to take care of people now. We know that the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, has said that this is really akin to a bridge loan meant to just carry people through these 10 weeks of the lockdown, if you like. But if you look at the average rental for a 2-bedroom apartment in the U.S., just average, it is exactly that, $1,200 a month. So when you say there are people who say it's not enough, that is exactly one data point why that is certainly a point worth making. As far as people who we've already reached out to, most people are spending that money right away on food. So no word yet on further stimulus or further, let's say, support. But there are a lot of people saying it's not enough, Lindsay.
This small business loan program designed to keep small businesses afloat during the shutdown, we just heard, ran out of money earlier today. What needs to happen in order to keep these businesses afloat?
I think one thing that's important to change at this point is that the small businesses, for example, mom and pop pizza shops, for example, or florists, or who these loans were meant to help, it's important that those businesses get the money if more is passed in Congress. As you mentioned, that ship has sailed for the first batch, if you like. But one troubling statistic that has come across is that 82% of the small businesses who received part of that funding, there's about 44,000 of them who are worth $1 million or more because of the parameters and some of the tax loopholes. So you have companies or entities such as hedge funds, for example, who were legally able to apply and receive funds. And obviously, Lindsay, that is not at all who it was intended for. Back to you.
Deirdre Bolton, thank you so much. Can't wait to meet you in person.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
We turn now to that $350 billion fund to help small businesses and its workers get through the shutdown. The Paycheck Protection Program could run out of money as early as tonight, and Congress can't agree on how to send more. In our Financial Fallout series, Chris Van Cleve reports on the program's popularity and problems.
It took high-end steakhouse Ruth's Chris, with 150 restaurants and more than 5,000 employees, just days to get a $20 million loan from J.P. Morgan Chase. Funds from the $350 billion set aside to help small businesses make payroll. The CARES Act allows restaurants and hotels, regardless of size, to apply, but it appears size matters.
I don't think it's fair that the big guys get everything, the little guys get nothing.
Paul Gattuso is struggling to keep Paul's Pizza and Hot Dogs open. The 38-year-old Westchester, Illinois restaurant has just 8 employees and is still waiting for word about its small business loan.
You check your emails hourly, you're waiting anxiously to hear something. I can't do it much longer. I'm trying so hard.
Democrats in Congress complain the program allows banks to prioritize existing customers, particularly those with large credit lines like Ruth's Chris, over small businesses or new applicants.
I don't think it's wrong that the big companies, are getting the money and saving jobs. What's wrong is it's not on a level playing field.
Neil Borofsky oversaw the 2009 stimulus program during the Great Recession.
So for the mom and pop, are they at the back of the line?
Frankly, until all the established bank customers get their loans, they might not even be on the line.
A line that may be too long for small business owners like Paul Gattuso.
When the Small Business Fund runs out of money, it will be up to Congress to restock it. Ruth Chris told us in a statement that it and its nearly 30 franchisees will follow all of the regulations in the loan program, and that $20 million will go primarily to payroll. Nora?
All right, Chris, thank you.
The economic emergency that's tied directly to the pandemic is especially brutal for small businesses all over the country. In many cases, some owners are beginning to face questions this spring about whether their business can survive. Amna Nawaz has more on the storm of troubles people are facing.
A sudden and complete drop in business has left many businesses struggling without sales or income. The government is trying to help. As part of a $2 trillion aid package signed into law by the president and Congress, nearly $350 billion will be used to ensure banks provide loans and loan forgiveness for small businesses. But small business owners say they're having major trouble getting their loan applications moving through banks and the Small Business Administration, or SBA, which helps to coordinate those federal funds. Here's what a few small business owners shared with us.
My name is Justin Moore. I'm the general manager of Uncle Bobby's Coffee and Books in Germantown, Philadelphia. Like most retail spaces, it's been a bit of a nightmare since the middle of last month. The biggest, pain point for me since we closed our doors is just worrying about everyone's well-being, not just from a health standpoint, but, financially as well. And, we have these recurring expenses, these bills, including rent and insurance, that we have no way of being able to pay without some assistance from the SBA.
My name is Greg Honeycutt, and our company is Honeycutt Construction and Design in Houston, Texas. We bank with Wells Fargo. All they communicated to me after I registered was, we're still not ready to actually do the application process. Please don't contact us again.
My name is Travis Powell, and I own the Best Western Plus Frontier Motel in Lone Pine, California. It's a small town of 2,000 people, and both of our banks, neither one of which is affiliated with the SBA in any way. And Saturday morning, I sat down and sent out either 32 applications and or contact forms filled out online. I've heard back from about half of those, and they all state the same thing, that at this time we're only servicing people with existing loans or existing accounts.
My name is Christine Goslin, and I have owned my salon since 2002. I had called our bank, and I was told that there were over 400 applications, and at this point, I would be on a wait list. I could get by clearly this month and maybe next month, but I did tell my husband that if we're out through May and into June, I might have to start looking for some sort of job.
I am Jennifer Myers-Polidori, owner of Myers of Keswick, a British specialty food store in Greenwich Village, Manhattan, New York. I have tried, I guess you can say since Friday, April 3rd, to apply for the SBA loan. Basically, the biggest challenge has been trying to actually get through and click submit so that I know that my application has gone through.
We're running out of money rapidly. I'm in the process of using the CARES Act to borrow from my 401k, and that'll allow me to pay my employees for about a month more. They're at part-time right now being paid.
So we have 4 full-time employees. I paid them for 2 weeks. That was 2 weeks ago. We're in week 3 now. I have not paid them this week.
I understand that, things are going to be slow because we're dealing with some extenuating circumstances, but at this point, almost a month after we've closed, I need some type of timetable at this point.
You know that you're kind of in a race to fill this out and get this application submitted, and you think you're moving along, and then boom, you get bumped out. So you wonder how many people actually got to click submit before you. And it's very daunting. I've lost a bit of sleep over it.
That loan program they mentioned is known as the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. Businesses with fewer than 500 workers can qualify. They can use that money to pay for up to 2 months of payroll, leases, and utilities, and those loans, in some cases, can be forgiven. We're going to talk through all the details of that program and what businesses are facing right now with Lisa Desjardins, who joins me now. Lisa, you can hear in their voices the anxiety, the concern, the worry. How representative are some of those stories with what's happening across the board right now?
Amna, I and our team have been talking to a lot of small businesses, and those are completely representative of what's happening. Essentially, there is a massive bottleneck in trying to get this money, incredible demand, and not the ability to get it out. Let's look at the specific issues of what's happening. Right at the front of it, banks are limiting these loans. That in part is because some large corporate banks feel they're under constraints, and some smaller banks are worried about their balance sheet, that they can't handle as much of the volume as the demand entails. Now, also part of this, Amna, however, is that banks are not getting very much specific guidance from the government as to exactly who qualifies for these loans. The nitty-gritty details that they need, they say they're not getting. So all of this, Amna, has led to long waits, sometimes a wait just to get your application in, much less to know if your application has been approved.
You know, Lisa, navigating a federal process, even without a global pandemic going on, can be a frustrating process. How much of that bottleneck is due to the fact that this is just unprecedented, this kind of program at this kind of scale?
Yeah, that's the right question. Absolutely. That is part of the problem. No country, certainly not the U.S., has ever tried something like this before. I want to convey what this program looks like, so a sense of scope of all of this. So the total program, as you've reported, is about $349 billion in funding. That's been approved so far. Now, just in the past 2 weeks that it's been in existence, I'm told as of today, some $151 billion has been approved for small businesses. So consider this, Amna, all of last year, the SBA loaned out only $28 billion. So they've, in the course of the last 2 weeks, loaned out 5 times what they did all of last year. So this is unprecedented, and it's fair to say that they're working as hard as they can. But Amna, there are others who say the SBA and Congress itself should have thought about this a month ago, 6 weeks ago, when they knew an economic tsunami was coming.
You know, Lisa, you hear even in the stories of the folks who sent in their experiences with us, there's a diversity of experience. There's variation in their stories, right? And when you think about who has access to capital markets and to financing, even again, when pandemics aren't going on, that varies, whether you're a minority-owned business, whether you're a rural business. Is any of the recovery effort geared towards that, towards evening out some of those inequities?
No, not yet. And that's something that's really been discussed. I think that right now, this is an untested program. It's not clear where the problems are. That's why we're reporting on it right now. But you could hear in those stories the diversity of experience from the construction owner and salon owner who had applied and were just waiting in a very long line to hear from their banks, to Travis. He was the hotel owner in rural America who really wasn't sure he could find a bank that would support him because so many banks, Amna, have limited this loan only to their current customers. And many banks in rural America don't carry SBA loans. They're not part of this process usually. So that has left rural America especially sort of in a tougher position than others.
So Lisa, what about Congress? What are they working on? Is there more potential help on the way?
There is talk. Everyone agrees in Washington that more money is needed for this. They disagree about how to divide it. The president wants $250 billion more just in general for small businesses. Democrats want it to be targeted to community banks, especially those rural ones, and for disaster loans and assistance. But I want to give people a sense of sort of how this all works or where we're at. So for small businesses, here's why this matters so much. 48% of this nation's workers work for small businesses, and 90% of them told the National Federation of Independent Business, a major small business group, 90% said that they are experiencing an impact from the coronavirus. That's a huge surge in just the last couple of weeks. Moreover, Amna, most of them told the NFIB that they don't think they can survive 2 months without any help. And so what's happening, Amna, is this is a situation where there is an economic curve as much as there is a healthcare curve. And if there is not help for these businesses just in the next couple of weeks, we could see some businesses that just feel they might have to turn to bankruptcy. So the time is very critical for many of these businesses.
That time is very critical. That help is critically needed too. Lisa Desjardins reporting for us tonight. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
With a pair of locations across New York, Other Half Brewing just got a huge boost. A government-guaranteed loan to help pay its rent and staff after David Berman had to furlough 24 employees due to the pandemic.
It was a lifeline for our business at a time when we had to drastically change our business model.
In less than 2 weeks, more than $305 billion in emergency loans have been approved to more than 1.4 million small businesses nationwide. With applications for the first-come, first-served loans pouring in, multiple sources say the $350 billion fund could run out of money as early as tonight. Why the demand?
Mark Cuban calls this free money. The Paycheck Protection Program means if your business keeps full employment, you don't have to pay the loan back.
Both Democrats and Republicans want to add $250 billion to the emergency aid fund. But Democrats want money for other programs, too. Also tonight, a new controversy over those paper checks for millions of taxpayers who do not have direct deposit on file with the IRS. President Trump's name will be printed on the front of those checks, according to the Treasury Department. The first time that's ever happened on an IRS payment. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tonight blasting the move as shameful. The Treasury Department denying reports that adding the president's name will delay the checks, saying they're scheduled to go out on time and exactly as planned. Peter Alexander, NBC News, the White House.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.